Well, everyone, the pace of things is really quite fast. I've not really finished the patch yet. I'm pretty sure you haven't either, but it's not stopped Blizzard because they've revealed patch 11.1.5. They've also thrown it on the PTR, and credit where it's due. It's not what we expected, and I mean that in a good way. Today, you're going to learn everything there is to know, and if all you've done is skim the patch notes, well, turns out there's actually more in the PTR. Now, there's a thing I've been doing in my personal free time that you don't know. I've actually been building like little apps and tools, and that's why today's sponsor is really relevant. They're Boot Dev. And with Boot, you'll learn back-end web development using Python and Go, which are two awesome languages that will set you up well as a programmer. And why I love Boot is actually how it works specifically. It's the vibes, the sauce, because it is a fantasy RPG where you've got quests, XP, public leaderboards, all that fun stuff. I mean, just look at the leaderboard updating in real time as users are completing lessons, and so much more, like, say, the spellbook feature, which is awesome. As you go through course content, you unlock more of the spellbook, which has got loads of programming reference materials in it, but all done as you learn. It's so cool. Basically, Boot's founder loves role-playing games. Big WoW gamer, by the way, viewer of the channel, and that's why it's built for people like us. And of course, you're learning real practical skills here, not just programming basics. That will mean you doing portfolio projects, mastering Git, doing lots of server client stuff, and all that you'll actually need for the real job. And the best news is you get 25% off your first purchase at boot.dev/Bellular, and it's zero risk because you can browse all their content, do their demos, and so much more for free. And when you do buy, it's with a 30-day money-back guarantee. The first thing, something I really didn't expect, it's a massive buff. So how does double reputation, a flat 20% XP buff, and a chance, that's something we've not had in a while, XP potions for killing mobs? Kind of wild. Patch 11.1.5 is definitely the catch-up patch because of a new thing called Winds of Mysterious Fortune. Once this patch hits, everyone will have double rep in the War Within, triple rep in Dragonflight. It's kind of insane. Yeah, I guess this is happening. And massive boosts to basically everything else. I think Blizzard are trying to frame this as the, hey, it's time to come back. Take everything. I think that's kind of the framing. Now, in one way, that does look really, really desperate. In another way, it makes me think, do they have something rather large to announce? Is there supposed to be some big news that will hit around this so that there is hype? But the thing is, there's actually a lot of content in this patch, so let's talk about that. Our next feature is completely out of left field. It's called Dastardly Duos, and basically it seems to be doing an arcade version of what WoW's really good at, in boss fights. So it's called duos. Now, this doesn't mean it's like duo bosses like the dinosaur and monkey fight from Undermine. It's just you fighting two bosses at once, potentially even more. And the goal is not just to clear this, it's actually to get a high score. And the best news is it's not some sort of like super sweaty hardcore content either. It's going to have a whole bunch of power-ups and items that you can earn over time via achievements. So basically, it's got its own form of progression, kind of like a game within a game, I guess. And it being scored does, I think, mean that they don't have to mess around with difficulties or stuff. They can just make it simple and easy for people who don't care about the score. But then if you want to chase down score, you can obviously, well, do whatever you'll need to do to get lots of score. Maybe that's going really fast. Maybe it's adding in even more bosses at once. It essentially seems like old school kind of arcade-like game design. I'm kind of down for that. And if the idea of it being raid bosses seems kind of wacky, I agree with you. Reading their post, they don't say you and your raid, they say your party. So I've got to imagine that this is going to be dungeon bosses. I think in terms of complexity, that will work a good bit better. What this is going to be then is a 6-week event that will show up sometime during the patch. It will have a whole bunch of rewards, which basically seem to be the usual, loads of cosmetics, toys, but also some cool old items, because these bosses are basically animatronic versions of existing ones from across the game. So basically, it's old school content cycled kind of back in, like they did with, say, BRD in the 20th anniversary raid, but in a more unique way. So it's not Brawler's Guild, which I was kind of holding out hope for, but I'm okay with that because this seems really cool and like actually different. I mean, when you think about it, even just on dungeons, WoW has got so many cool, memorable bosses from the past. Actually, like, making a boss rush mode out of that seems really cool and way more interesting than the bizarre boss rush thing that I think they did for the 15th anniversary. Okay, whenever this hits PTR, we will play it, but don't worry, the PTR is already up. This bit has just not came yet, but a lot of other things have, like the Weakauras replacement, and this sure is something. So it turns out that the cooldown manager is hitting the game way sooner than we thought. I thought this was going to be a 12.0 thing, but no, it's actually on the public test realm right now. So the question then is, does WoW's Weakora replacement actually replace Weakauras? And the answer is sort of yes, but there's a massive asterisk. So here's what it looks like. You'll see that it tracks all of your major abilities in the Essentials panel, even your defensives and heals for the right roles, which is all pretty neat. Underneath that then, you'll see all of your utility abilities, so that's your defensives, your crowd control. Then there's a buff tracker, which shows important buffs as icons, and a bar tracker that shows your most important combat buffs. It's kind of cool to have all of this, and these have got all the usual edit mode layout options, so you can basically put these wherever you want, whatever size, whatever layout. I think that's basically fantastic, and this could easily replace Weakauras for people who are happy to accept decent defaults, which is basically what this will be. And I suppose if you prefer something that matches the game's aesthetics, right? But if you want complete tracking and things like, a holy bar or like an energy bar replacement in the middle of your screen, well, this would be a massive downgrade over the very custom solutions that people can make with Weakauras. And if you want really good ones, Luxos's ones are fantastic. So basically the way to think about this is like when Blizzard did the changes to action bars that technically replaced functionality from Bartender or Elf UI for some people, but with the humongous downside, at least for some, that you don't have the crazy amount of customization options that those add-ons provide. As an example, right now, you cannot allow or block any specific abilities, and there are some gaping issues. Could just be a PTR thing, but as an example, it does not track Ret Paladin's wing duration when you're using Radiant Glory, and it does not show Crusade stacks. I imagine that kind of thing will be fixed up. There's still odd stuff like it tracks crusading strikes for no good reason. And for another quirk, I think Havoc Demon Hunter probably doesn't need their taunt to be in the utility section. So there are loads and loads of small issues, but I've got to imagine that's what the PTR is really here to help fix. So it's entirely up to Blizzard to make sure that this works as a fantastic out-of-the-box default for players and that they don't feel like they need to go and get Weakauras. Look, the upside here could be absolutely ginormous. How many people in World of Warcraft simply don't know what things their class can do? They're, I don't know, hidden away in a spellbook. They just forget to use ability. Well, you know what? If there is by default a thing there that is showing you glaringly all of your utility that you are not pressing, that you could have saved your life with, well, maybe that will help people be a little more informed and maybe a bit more, well, better. Okay, next up, we're going to be doing some Arathi LARPing. Okay, technically I lied, it's not live action roleplay, but what it is a new event. So, do you want to be called a Stalwart, an Ardent, or an Arrow Knight, or maybe a Sacred Templar? These are all things that you will be able to get in this patch. Everyone assumed the Nightfall, which is the name of this patch, was going to be some sort of Hallowfall related thing, and we were right. It's more Arathi, it's full-blown Arathi, and that's pretty good. They're a cool bunch. So we're going to be joining a new unit called Flames Radiance to defend Hallowfall from the Sareki Nerubians in a last-ditch effort now that they've basically lost their queen. So yeah, they're basically just going a bit crazy. Now, there's almost certainly more to it. I'm sure there will be lore implications, but that's what we've seen so far. Hallowfall and Ash-Kahet will be getting a whole bunch of new content, basically around whatever kicked off this sort of new wave in the Arathi and Hallowfall sort of war. Now, this is up in the PTR. It's basically more like what we've come to expect. So it's a world event in a way like Theater Troupe or Surge Pricing, but, well, thankfully it's more about murdering spiders and doing Arathi things. That's basically all that's up for now, and I'd say overall, it is perfectly fine world content. It's maybe not as interesting as we would have hoped. That being said, there are other things that are pretty damn cool in this patch to make up for that, like Horrific Visions, which I'll get to soon. And what is actually cool is they're doing a full-fledged Renown with this, but the Renown's actually got a few more neat things. Number one, right? New armor, new weapons, new dirigible colors, and you get a tabard. Now, the tabard will match your rank with the Renown. So basically, it'll get cooler and cooler as you go through the Renown. Your rank then directly buffs you in the zone as well. So if you definitely want to be the light, strongest soldier, have some sort of ego trip mowing down legions of spiders, basically, that's what you'll be able to do in this. So overall, I'm going to say it's not looking stunning in terms of oh man, crazy content, crazy game design. No, it is a slice of World of Warcraft content. That being said, WoW is an RPG. It's nailing the theme. They've got some really, really cool rewards. And if I even think about, say, the Lamplighter stuff, well, you know what? Actually, theme goes a long way. And even though the Lamplighter stuff is kind of just a bunch of bonus objectives, it feels better because the theme is banging. So they've actually nailed that here. Now, what's on PTR does look to be early, so I've got to imagine that it will progress and maybe things will be looking a little bit better as the weeks go on. Now it's time for horrific visions. These are so exciting to me, but the worst fear that a lot of us had is Blizzard would just flick the on switch back to the on position and leave it at that and basically do nothing. No, they've not done that. They've actually put in the work. Thank God, it actually looks pretty damn cool. So the horrific visions are coming back as they are, but with a bunch of new additions. The good news here for casual and solo players is you get NPC companions, if you want that is, who can tank, DPS, or heal for you. So if that's like a stressful side, well, sort of take that away. But of course, if you want challenge, there is even better news. Blizzard have added more difficulty levels, they have brought back all 5 of the challenge masks, and they've added 3 more challenge masks. Plus, on the higher difficulties, you can earn up to heroic gear. I am very happy to hear this. Now, even if you're doing them on the easier modes, they will offer item level 626 gear, at least according to the in-game tooltip right now. And for completing the achievements, you'll even be able to earn the right to buy 658 heroic weapons. Pretty sick. So basically, this is catch-up, but it's catch-up that's returning via solo and party content that's actually a really well-designed game mode. This thing was so cool back in the past in Battle for Azeroth, but it did have a lot of usability problems, like the way that you would enter it, you had to farm up a resource. That junk is all gone. You can go and do it. And certainly the culmination of all this stuff is that when you open up the event tab in PTR, holy shit, there really is, there's a lot of stuff to do. But okay, back to the visions. They're not super connected to the story. It's very specifically us revisiting these visions with the help of the Bronze Dragon Sorodormi. Apparently, N'Zoth used the Black Blood quite a bit as well, and we're basically just investigating them just to be sure. I've got to imagine there will be lots of very juicy lore tidbits, though. I mean, the last time that we time traveled to Old Gods in, Dragonflight, we inadvertently told N'Zoth what timeline was going to happen. At least up until, a certain point, which does have lore implications on what N'Zoth knew, even at the time of Battle for Azeroth. So, I don't know, they really could try to cook up something there. Anyway, let's talk rewards. So we'll collect a bunch of displaced versions of corrupted mementos. We can spend those on new and old things. I would expect it to follow a recent trend where we just see new versions of mounts and transmogs from the original version of this mode, plus toys that we basically wish we bothered to pick up back then. Now, also, if you miss the corruptions that made patch 8.3 an absolute riot, I forget the one that was really good, was it called Echoing Void or something? I call it on my first drop in the raid. I felt pretty good about it. Anyway, those corruptions are actually making it back in the form of weapon enchants. Oh man, yeah, we'll have a lot of testing to do. We'll be back soon once that testing is done. This does look like a massive PTR build to just get our teeth into. Quite a lot of content, so we'll report things when the time's right. That being said, overall, this patch is looking more substantial than I thought. It's also looking more interesting than I thought. The whole duos thing is genuinely new. I haven't really seen that before, so I'm keen to see what they cook up. But okay, that's it for today's news episode. That being said, good lord, a lot's going on, so if you want to check out the latest for 11.1, watch this video next.